Hello and welcome to another StarCraft 2 co-op video. Today we'll be looking at another post from a Chinese forum about the upcoming mutation. This post is really long, so I'll just cover the OP and the one that covers all the commanders. One of the most difficult mutations is here. The main types of things you will be facing are things that disrupt you and make you fight on multiple fronts, not things that strengthen the enemy. So it's easier to use the later commanders, the OP guys. If you don't know how to play them, you will get attacked from all sides, have to put out fires, and then get rolled over. OE is one of the few maps where the enemy automatically sends weak things. Full clearing is pretty much impossible, so reanimators pretty much cannot be permanently eliminated. Blizzards will also greatly disrupt units that have to walk towards rifts to eliminate them. In particular, you shift-click the rift and do something else, only to see later on that it's walking in space. Makes you want to spit out blood. And the first rifts spawn at 220. Once they spawn one unit and you kill it, the reanimators will start coming, putting pressure on the players. I recommend only playing as a duel. I don't recommend solo queuing. If you aren't confident in your ability, you can consider skipping this one. The general plan is to first stabilize, then clear rifts. If possible, take out enemies at the ramps so it's easier to control the reanimators. Don't rush your expo. Not expanding at all is also an option. If you don't expand, each player should just defend his own entrance. If you help each other, it will be pretty easy. If the first rifts are far rifts, just F10Q. Take out the first wave at the ramp or on the high ground so that the reanimators don't reanimate corpses on the low ground. I recommend watching the guide in this video. Its contents are rather basic and includes strategies for various commanders. The player doesn't really need to show off any skills. You can also recommend any videos where players don't show off their skills. Recommended combos. Karax P1 Manx P1, no expo. This is probably the simplest option for this mutation. Manx uses ESOs from the high ground to blast the trains. He can also blast rifts and give vision to Karax so Karax can blast rifts. For places that even ESOs can't reach, Manx can drop a few troopers and Karax can shift orbital strike 5 times to delete the rift. You need to tell your ally in advance and remember to give him a signal. Once you fill up the bunkers with P1, you eliminate the economic problems of the expo. I have no idea what the sentence means. I can read every word, but I don't know what it means when put together. Karax is primarily responsible for defending the paths to the main. Use Chrono Wave at appropriate times. Don't need to expand if you don't want to. Overall, you don't need to switch screens and cover multiple fronts frequently, and you don't need to avoid blizzards. At 130, you and your ally should each move 2 workers out to cover 4 directions. It's best if you can orbital strike both rifts before enemies spawn. If you don't, just obediently defend the ramps. One person makes a cannon and the other makes a bunker. Manx should make an ESO quickly to give vision for Karax to deal with rifts. Afterwards, squeeze out a few more ESOs and then get the amplified airwaves upgrade, the double mandate in the fusion core. You have to get this upgrade because it affects troopers inside ESOs. Karax should use his first chrono wave at around 650. ESOs can quickly take care of trains and rifts. If you can clear the 520 rifts easily, then do so. If you can't, defend until the 650 rifts. The second rift spawn hasn't occurred yet at this time. Reference videos, other combos. If you really want to solo queue, I recommend Lone Wolf. Many players have runs with this commander. Tychus is the main force, Sirius and Vega defend the base, Sam deals with the rifts. Remember to get his super cloak to clear rifts that are surrounded by enemies. For more details, look up other people's videos, especially ones where the enemy isn't devouring Scourge. If you really want to use Karax or Manx in solo queue, use P3. Another thing, Abathur and Hanhorner, blizzards will sweep Toxic Nest away, and Toxic Nest luring will also trigger reanimators. If you lure in the early game and don't deal with the reanimators, you might be hurting rather than helping. As everyone knows, HH is rather slow in the early game, so if you want to be helpful in the early game, you must be pretty proficient at these commanders and you also need good luck. In other words, if your ally is strong in the early game and can help you survive the early game, you will be able to deal with mid to late game rifts, far rifts, rather easily. If your dual partner is strong in the early game and can clear rifts, you can consider them. Abathur is basically 6 UEs plus Vipers. HH rushes strike fighters and defends with a few units, then transitions into Wraiths and BCs. For solos, reconsider moving out with your units since they will easily get wrecked by a blizzard and then you'll have to regroup your forces. Off topic. Regarding the conditions for creating a rift. I recently looked into the coding and learned that the conditions to create a rift were not checked, and the permissions were ignored when a rift is created. As such, the code to determine where to create a rift finds a point, then it goes to the next step and tries to create a rift. The game says, a rift cannot be created here. Screw it, just make it next to the closest 3x3 building, and then a rift will appear in the middle of many enemies. And if you see the long unbuildable track on OE, you'll understand why rifts will appear in the top left and top right corners in the middle of enemies. And on PNP, they will spawn near the box of parts on the upper track in the middle of enemies because the top left corner where the track is a possible spawn point, but not possible to build on, so it gets pushed out. But I don't know how to use this information. For players, it's purely negative. Even if you donate structures with eminent domain, when the game checks for conditions to create a rift, this point might be near many of Amon's units, so a rift won't be created there. Cherish the opportunity when the enemy is Devouring Scourge. When reanimators revive those units, they aren't much of a threat. Most solos abuse Devouring Scourge. I suddenly realized that next Sunday is my birthday. Happy birthday! Solo code is devoid on that day. The next week after is Temporal Field, Propagators. There's also concussive attacks, but it's often left out on Lock and Load. So I'm going to skip to this one. Code as a Void was a top-tier difficult mutation in the past, but now with prestigious and newer commanders, I can only say that it's an easy mutation if you pick the right commanders. After a rift spawns, it takes some time before air units are sent to your workers, so the difficulty of dealing with rifts is gone with the OP commanders. Now there are a ton of Code as a Void solos on Bilibili. Rainer. P1 Rainer multitasking on 8 fronts. Yeah, that was a thing before, but it was kind of meme. Average people definitely won't be able to copy that, so just learn to look upon human lives as if they are grass. So this means throwing a bunch of marines to take out a rift. Kerrigan, Omega worms everywhere, destroy the rifts. If you can't attack the rifts, you can mass mutas and attack the trains while avoiding blizzards. If your ally is Karax, there won't be any problems with the base. Artanis, in a duel, you should just deal with the trains. Leave the rest to Karax, the one with infallible defenses. Swan, if you focus on attacking the trains, gamble for a ground AI and mass tanks. If you focus on dealing with rifts and reanimators, manually teleport Hercs and target the rifts or reanimators with the laser. Zagara, even though my units can't move out, my bio launchers are unaffected. Karax, don't choose P2, make towers, that's all. If you can expand, do so. If you have money, don't waste it. Nova, Liberators attack trains, very reliable. Hero unit is good for taking out close rifts. As for far rifts, if the sabotage drone can reach it, good. If not, you have to waste 700 minerals. Abathur, Toxic Nest luring will trigger reanimators, but as long as you get your first Brutalisk, everything will be fine. Teleport anywhere on the map whenever you want. Warzone, if you can't defeat the rifts, you can still use Dark Pylon Wall. And I have Karax defending at home, I just need to mass DTs. Han Horner, Strike Fighters hit rifts accurately, the rest is just attacking the trains from the butt. Stukov, P1 Tank Liberator, if a train escapes, it's considered a loss for me. P1 Stukov also has a solo, Mech is undefeatable. Alarak, use Psionic Orb and Mind Blast, even celestial beings will shake in fear. You can't deal with rifts because War Prisms aren't unlimited. Seriously speaking, Alarak has also soloed this mutation, so before you play Alarak, you have to be clear about your ability to use him. Tychus, basic lone wolf multitasking, but you can also F2 all 5 despite fighting multiple fronts. After all, when you're not attacking the rifts, you aren't going to not attack the trains, right? Dahaka, hey, I have soloed this as well. Guardians and Mutas are high quality units, they'll take out the trains together with the escorts like they're nothing. Phoenix, Rock Slapper, I'm freaking coming. This doesn't explain anything about what to do with Phoenix. Minx, ESOs everywhere, win without taking a step outside. Again, just learn to look upon human lives as if they were grass, drop troopers on the rifts. Stedman, P1 Invincible Statolites, turn on purple zone, throw roaches. Zeratul, this guy can solo any Koda's Avoid however he wants. Do I need to say more? Okay then, F2 players need to move units into the Omega ship. And that's it for this post. What advice do you have for this mutation? Comment it down below and I'll see you next time.